Welcome back! We're back. Oh yeah, let's jump into it here. Let's look at this. Boom, it's Altdorf. Let's go. Yeah. I really need to get Photoshop, but it's so fucking expensive. It's okay, we're gonna figure it out soon. Soon, we're gonna be able to do things. Soon. Let's turn on Discord and see what everybody's doing.
That was it. It was E7 or E1? Which one was it?
I don't know.
Not sure. But damn, I got really tired.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
So I realize one thing that is actually unfortunate about this system that I'm using to show who's talking, besides the fact that it's wrong right now and I have to change it, if somebody's missing, it'll be all fucked up.
Yeah, all fucked up. All kinds.
Alright, so here's rule of thumb. None of us can miss a session now. We have
so
to
like,
attend every session.
So here's the best part. If Liam or Dalton were missing, it would be fine. Because I could just move it around to figure it out. But if any of the rest of you ever missed a session, it would be so messed up I couldn't do anything. Well, actually, no. Actually, I got it. Never mind. I figured it out. Actually, it's fine. I'll just change the letter in front of my name so that I am alphabetically at that position.
Oh, wow. You are so smart, Jordan.
I'm a fucking genius.
That's a way to make it.
If two people are
Clap.
What if two people are missing?
That's unfortunate, and I don't know what to do about that. But
Yeah, and here's what I was gonna say: is that
least.
I can just make you variations.
right. Well, yeah. So what I could do is I could just add another Discord variation and put it in there. I guess like join on a different, like use a separate email.
If it's not too much trouble, I could just make a different layout. For
yeah. No, that would be good.
Couldn't you just have sort of an overlay for each individual kind of
So no.
picture?
This is actually this system is actually a Discord made system. Discord specifically made this so that I could input the talking thing.
They made it for
on my
you?
stream. No, made it for like general streamers. It's actually a system that Discord put out. It's called the Discord Stream Kit. It's really, really cool actually that they did that. But you could only have one instance of it running, as far as I am aware. And basically what it does is it pulls the Siege of the Empire voice chat and just inputs that information into a like a web browser source, and then I just put the browser source in OBS. So that's it. So like,
Okay.
Yeah, that's cool.
yeah, like I guess I could have.
It's awesome, but yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome, but there are limitations. So it's okay. I can make it work. It's fine. Moving right along. Welcome back, everybody. Hope everybody got up, stretched their legs. Got to practice safe game playing. Okay, it's very, very important.
I stuffed my face full of spaghetti, so
Eating is also acceptable as long as you're not consistently doing bad things to your body, and then the news blaming it on sleep deprivation when you die, because that's not actually what happened. But
Not at all.
We won't go there because that really made me angry. For those that don't know, there was a fairly popular streamer who died last week.
Oh, yeah.
He died
Who?
of, I think they said officially it was just heart failure. Because he was doing a 24-hour stream, and he went out to get, like, cigarettes, and died of heart failure, like, in the parking lot. And people tried to blame it on sleep deprivation, which acute sleep deprivation is not the leading cause of that. It is probably
actually
the massive
that wouldn't be the case at all, because if you're so sleep deprived, your body would literally shut you down.
Yeah,
beforehand.
It's the massive amounts of alcohol and cigarettes that one smokes that probably and energy drinks that one smokes.
I should know this especially because in junior high I did a study on sleep deprivation by staying up for 3 days straight.
Yeah, no. There are totally safe practices you can take. Constantly drinking alcohol, smoking cigarettes, and energy drinks is not the safe way to stay up for a long period of time.
I got a C on that project because my teacher didn't believe I stayed up all 3 days.
So, anyway, moving right along. Practice safe game playing, everybody. Get up every couple of hours, walk around, do the thing.
No. Never.
Yeah. Totally.
When I work.
You don't tell me what to do, Jordan.
I work at an office, and I sit at a desk 8 hours a day. I make sure that every 2 hours I stand up, and I will pace back and forth a few times before I sit back down. It's very important.
Because otherwise you will actually kill your legs.
Yeah, otherwise you will actually atrophy your legs into such...
Fuck!
That is a great one. I like that one.
That is a perfect
Probably
one.
better than any of the others you have come up with. That is my
Fuck!
favorite.
I did not mean to do that shit.
It's a hyper beam though. It's more of an Aelin one, to be real here.
Yeah, it's true. Anyway, moving right along, Jackson, since you're so
Nudge,
eager to
wink,
Eldritch
wink.
Blast, the woman takes 8 force damage and is blasted back 10 feet. No, I'm just kidding.
You kill her upon
Yeah,
impact.
she dies immediately because she has like 1 hit point.
Nudge, nudge, wink, wink, Aelin.
And anyway,
Well,
where did you find those, Cat?
Found him with my body.
Where-
Found him with my body.
Where did she find Mardi Gras beads in my house?
Perfect.
perfect.
Anyway.
You know, I'd ask more questions, but I don't think I want to know.
She was just carrying around Mardi Gras beads, and she stepped on the end of it. Or, actually, let me rephrase, by the way. Found out a couple of days ago, Fife is totally a boy cat. Straight up boy cat.
Awesome.
How
That's
did you
cool,
get
the
those again?
princess,
Come back
but
here.
still awesome.
No,
Yeah, I
those are-
thought it was gonna be a herm.
I thought it was a herm too for a while, but no, we have. I took him in to get his vaccines and stuff, and I was like, "Listen, I have a really weird question. Is this a boy or a girl cat?" And they were like, "Well, you're right. It is hard to tell. I can definitely see. Definitely looks a little underdeveloped, but if you see right here, here are the balls." And I was like, "Oh, there's balls. Okay, cool. Can we go ahead and neuter while we're here as well? That would just be great. Because the last thing I need is a fucking
No, hey.
batch of kittens in my house. Okay?
What's wrong
Here's
with
the thing,
kittens?
though. As long as are your other cats spayed and neutered?
No, my 2 girl cats are not spayed.
Oh, okay. Then yeah, no, you need to do that.
Yeah,
Cut
no,
those
no,
balls
no.
off.
Yep. We got the balls cut right off. It's fine.
Funny.
It's totally okay. Anyway, enough distractions.
Could say a funny story, but I won't.
My-
So.
I wonder if the cat thinks that was a fair trade. It gets free food, but it has its balls chopped off.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, free food is free food.
Yeah, I mean, there's.
I'm not sure. I'm not
You
sure the
gotta
cat
wonder-
understands the concept of surgery.
It's true. It's a good point. Anyway, let's get back to the game. Sorry, I distracted us for so long. Jackson,
It's out.
Hannibal, you approach this woman, and she stands up from her stool, and you can see that her stock is probably a little bit light, but she's got like some herbs, and you can see some poultices, and you can see there are a couple of like small vials of potions. But there's definitely room at her like stall for a lot more. But she's the only. She appears to be like the only person in the market district right now who is selling the kind of things that you're looking for.
Okay, fly. So I approach. I go, "Hello there."
Yeah, and she says, "Oh, hello, dearie. What can I do for you today?"
Well, I was looking for some potions, but I can't help but notice looks like you're running rather low. What might be the reason for that?
She kind of smiles this big, toothy, but not all of her teeth grin.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little scary. She says, "Oh, well, you know, the Emperor's nephew, he came by a few days ago, and he bought up all my stock, all the things that were useful. I've been trying to replenish them, but I don't have young, strong legs like you, young man, to go out and search for the rarest herbs."
I don't like how this lady's hitting on me.
Fetch West.
Okay. Where are they going to go fight?
"Oh, have you not heard? Perhaps you are new in town, but they were all traveling north to Middenheim, from what I heard. Lots of soldiers and men, all very good-looking."
All right. 'Alright, 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 'al
Oh, I try not to get caught up in politics too much, but I heard there was some great battle up there that they were going to. You must understand that I have lived a great many years, and, well, things such as that don't interest me a lot anymore.
Okay. So,
What I do know is they were going to defeat some invasion, I heard, from creatures from beyond the ice caps of the far north.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay, that's different. Alright. So, enough about that. What kind of stock do you have right now?
She begins to relay a list. It appears that indeed what she said is, like, anything healing or, like, specific battle related is, like, gone. It's all been bought out or taken. She has a few, like, poultices that are available, but she hasn't had enough. There hasn't been enough time in between to make, like, a decent, like, brew of healing potions or anything like that, anything that you might want to do that. But she does have a few other things. She probably, like, gets over to the potion area and she's like, oh, and for that special someone in your life, I have this potion that will make them enamored with you. And she kind of, like, smiles. She's like, I have free samples as well, if you'd like.
No. How much is it?
Oh, well, dearie, let me look here. And she kind of like fumbles around through a couple of scrolls as I stall for time to look in my book at how much these things typically run. So she says that what she is calling the potion of love. Where did you go? Where did you come from? Where did you go? Where did you come from? Ah, yes, the filter of love. So she says that it is it's a small, like, heart-shaped bottle, right? It's colored like a rose, like perhaps a kind of a reddish color. And it is filled with, that kind of rose color substance, and she says, well, how about this, dearie? I'm doing quite well nowadays since the army came through and bought all of my things. I could part with this one for perhaps, say, 10 gold?
Deal.
Okay. So mark down that you have a love potion.
Okay.
And
what else you got?
10 gold from the inventory.
Done. Fuck yeah, this is awesome. What else you got? What else weird shit you got? Give it to me.
She does have another one. So, she's like, well, I have this one other potion that, if you're ever looking for something, it can lead you directly to what your heart most desires.
Fuck it, let's do it. Give it to me.
Yeah, and she pulls out this little potion, and it's a little vial. It's like a teardrop, and you can see that it has, like, a yellowish liquid in it. And almost translucent, there is a faint, like, what looks like an eyeball. It's not like an actual eyeball, but it looks like, it's the swirls and the way that the potion is moving inside of the bottle makes it look like a little bobbing eyeball floating up and down.
Great.
Yeah, and that's what she says. She's like, the one who consumes this potion will be led to what their heart most desires.
Fuck yeah, let's do it.
And yeah, I think she says, I can part with this one. The ingredients are perhaps a quite bit more rare than the love potion. I could part with this one for, let's say, 20 gold.
Do it.
Okay, cool. And you receive said potion.
What's it called?
Let's call it a potion of finding.
Alright, I feel very accomplished.
Cool.
Anything else interesting, or is that it?
I mean, yeah, unless you want to drop some money on like the poultices that she has available, but you can also make those yourself for free, basically.
Yeah. So I also bought $20 gold coins worth of summoning shit from her.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's right, because you wanted to get the ingredients to summon a familiar, right?
Yeah, so
totally.
I already, the moment I said that, I took it out of my inventory and put it in there.
Yeah, totally. Those are common enough for you to find, no problem.
Yeah, so that's pretty much it.
Cool.
Could you explain to me can I ask her to explain how the love potion works?
Yeah, so she says to you, "Oh, well, it's very simple, dear. Make sure that the one that your heart truly desires drinks this, and that the first thing that they see upon their awakening is you."
Wait, awakening?
Yes, it causes minor syncopal episode. It's fine.
Alright. How long does it last?
Well, that very much depends on how well you treat a woman, or a man, if that's what you prefer.
Don't judge me.
Oh, no, dearie, I'm not. But again, it depends on how well you treat someone.
Okay. That makes sense. Thank you.
She says, "You're very welcome, dearie. And make sure you come back to Gretchen's shop anytime."
I will. You have interesting stuff.
Yeah, she kind of blushes and like her hand flutters over her mouth and she says, Oh my, yes. If I were swooning any more, I would assume that you had given me that potion."
Bye.
You begin trotting off. Fantastic.
Yeah, man, she must be really horny to hit on a dude with a mask.
She's like an 80-year-old woman. She don't care.
Yeah.
I got a new toy.
Couple new toys.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is better or worse than blowing up a mansion.
Oh god, I'm gonna have so much fun. I need to think about what I'm gonna do with this.
So, in stark contrast to buying possibly illicit love potions off of a market stall, Aelin, let's talk about you going to church.
Yes.
Need a church.
That's a good song. So let's figure out where the you know what, the Church of Shalia is probably fairly large in this city. Let's say it is this building right here, this stone building right here. Let's say that's the Church of Shalia. Oh my god. Alright, Church of Shalia.
By the way, I'm not telling any of you assholes that I have it. Because I know you'll try to take it from me. Because you're trying to take everything fun from me.
Bad.
Okay, so at the Church of Shalia, Aelin, do you prepare yourself to arrive at your home, basically? And if so, what do you do?
I don't think that Aelin would prepare. I think that she would want to get there as soon as she can, post haste.
Fly shadow effects.
Indeed. So yeah, no, I think she would just go straight there.
Okay. Yeah, so you trot up, and it's still kind of earlier in the day while everybody else is doing their thing. And there's a small stable area just for, basically nobles who would come here that could just store their horses, because typically a priest or priestess of Shalia has no reason to have a horse. But there is probably a small area to keep animals when dignitaries come by, or people who are riding stop in. And so you hand the reins, and the stable girl recognizes you immediately. She's probably an acolyte, right, of the church, doing community service work, or like working with your hands and kind of getting dirty is a lot of the tenets of Shalia, right? Like healing and mercy requires hard work and effort, and becoming very humble to the plight of man. And so she gives you a very low bow, and she says, "High Priestess, it is wonderful to see you again. I am glad you have returned.
Sister, it's good to see you've kept yourself busy. Thank you for welcoming me back.
Yes, it is very honorable to take care of your fine steed.
Elaine just like passes off her steed.
Yeah, and
kind of moves fast.
You glide into the church, and when you glide in, I think that you realize that there is not a sermon going on, but kind of like a prayer service. Kind of as you enter, that is ongoing. There's a lot of women and children who are kind of like in the pews. And there's a lot of priests, and there's not like one person up on the dais or anything, right? There's a lot of priests, priestesses, and priests and acolytes kind of wandering through the crowd, like, clearly like praying with specific individuals, and receiving tithe, and so it's kind of like a weird like prayer service, right? It's not necessarily like a sermon or anything like that. But as you enter, I think probably one of the acolytes sees you and kind of gives like a start. It says, "High Priestess, you have returned," and that causes everybody to kind of turn and look at you as you come in, and shining like the bright light that Aelin is. There's a murmuring kind of throughout the crowd. What do you do when that occurs?
I think that Aelin would just be like, "Oh no, please don't mind me. Please go about what you were doing." And then I think that she would just kind of walk forward and take a seat to just observe in the back pew, her favorite pew that sits all the way in the back of her church.
Sure.
Because this sort of thing really relaxes her, and she misses it watching her people work. So
yeah,
she just tries to let them finish, and then she'll go about her business.
Yeah. So I don't think this is a perception check. I actually think this is a religion check. I need you to roll me, please, to see if you can just via osmosis discover what they're doing. So it's not great. It is probably what I described, right? It's probably like a prayer service where they're praying, but like specifics you don't really pick up on. Like maybe this is some group of women who comes here regularly, like maybe this is a new thing. Maybe this is, maybe these are travelers. Like you're not really sure why this is going on or what they're actually talking about. Just like via happenstance. But after a fair, after a couple of minutes of going through the crowd, some of the women and children begin to filter out.
Aelin makes sure that on their way out, she personally thanks all of them for coming and hopes to see them again soon.
Yeah, and all of them, give the same, blessings be to you, High Priestess, blessings be to you, may the blessing of Shalia guide your path, the typical, kind of goodbye from the congregation, as you would typically do. And once they all begin to filter out, there are a couple of people here who are not, technically part of the prayer service, a couple of ill people, probably, because the Church of Shalia in all cities and towns basically doubles as the hospital.
Yeah, the hospital as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so there's a couple of probably infirm people maybe, walking along the edges of the church, or maybe in a back kind of conference room or banquet area where there's beds laid out and that kind of stuff, and it's kind of back to normal. And when all the women and children filter out, the priests and priestesses come up to you one at a time, and give you very, very honorable greetings, and there's probably a couple that are oh, it's very grateful for you to be back, High Priestess. It is wonderful to see you. The general clamor of the returning head of the church kind of thing.
And I think that you would notice that Aelin asks very pointed questions of each one of them. That clearly means that she has taken the time to get to know each and every one of them personally. She would ask about one of their sisters, if she's still doing well, and how's your father doing? I heard he was, and just the whole,
there is probably a mixture of my sister, she's expecting now, and then there's also a mixture of there was an accident, and unfortunately Romeo is no longer with us, that kind of thing. There's a mixture of good and bad, kind of 50-50. But yeah, totally. They all appreciate, as is life, basically. You get a coin flip, and that's about it.
But she spends a considerable amount of time with each and every one of them. She doesn't just dismiss them.
Yeah, totally. And then, once finally, the brief conversation is over, they go back to their duties, essentially, of whatever they're doing in the church, and begin spreading the word that the high priestess has returned for good, I'm sure. But, of course, you probably tell them that you're leaving soon.
Almost in the same breath, yes.
Yeah, totally. So, mostly you're dealing with, acolytes and low-level priestess and priests in this moment. There is a woman who is clad in plate armor that kind of emerges from one of the back rooms, right? One of the acolyte only rooms. So it's traditional as well for the Church of Shallya to have at least one paladin, right, at all times. Mm-hmm. What would be your paladin woman's name?
Daniela.
Okay, cool. So, Daniela emerges from the back room, having, one of the acolytes probably rushed back to, tell her that you had arrived. And Daniela's a strong woman, but with soft features. She almost looks out of place wearing armor. It probably doesn't, suit her facial features well. She looks, very soft-hearted and very kind in the face. But from a fact that she is more than willing to give people mercy should they require it. And contrary to the Paladins of Sigmar, who all carry very blunt, very kind of, brutal objects, she carries a rapier on her side. A very precise, very finely crafted, piece of machinery for one purpose, which is providing mercy. And she carries a rapier and a shield, obviously. And as she approaches, she gives you a bow, and she says, High Priestess, it is good to see you again.
She bows, but Aelin kind of ignores it. He embraces Daniela, and she says, Daniela, it's so good to see you as well.
Yeah, and also that, it's not typically common for a Paladin of Shallya to walk around in her armor, by the way. Typically they may walk around in just plain clothes, but they're still paladins. But she is armored, which...
Especially within the church.
Within the church and within the city, right? That's a little bit odd. And she returns the embrace half-heartedly at first, and then, the full embrace. And as you guys see kind of break away, you can see, her eyes are tearing up a little bit from the joy of seeing you again. And she says... I was hoping that you were not lost to us.
Oh no, you know me. I will live here forever. And then she just kind of looks around. Well, as long as Shallya says.
Yeah, and I think she nods and she's like, and Shallya says a great many things. Daniela's probably always been not the most devout, per se. She takes her job very seriously. And so it kind of gives her an air of kind of being a little bit standoffish to some of the lighter tenets of Shallya, right? The, every peasant must be healed if possible kind of mindset. And that's kind of typical, I think, of the Paladins of Shallya, where they are almost in stark contrast to the priestess, the priestesses of Shallya. Where you are a pacifist, the Paladins of Shallya have to take up that much more slack, right? Because, the priests of Sigmar will go out and bash a motherfucker's head in, right? But the priestess of Shallya would never do that. Or most of the time would never do that, right? So the Paladins of Shallya are given kind of a bad rap because they have to do all of that work. And so while she seems sometimes dismissive of that, you know specifically that she's an extremely devout woman, and there's probably no one else you'd rather have kind of at your side when push came to shove. So I think that she probably says, come sister, we must conference, I believe. There is much to tell.
Yeah, and I think Aelin says, yes, let's go to the courtyard in the back.
Yeah, and she kind of nods. She says, that would be appropriate, yes. And you guys kind of march in that direction. And, you know, it's slow for you because in the halls you see somebody you hadn't spoken with yet, and you stop for a minute or two and speak to them. And,
yes,
you know,
every single person.
Daniela is just, like, sitting there, like, patiently waiting and, like, maybe occasionally, like, tapping her foot or, you know, sees, like, a serving boy and is like, you know, oh, by the way, this needs taken care of. Like, just kind of, like, waiting for you to be done. And eventually you guys do make it out to the you know, small courtyard that exists right behind the church. It seems to have been tended well. There's no like weeds growing up or anything. And there's probably like a smaller statue would be the wrong word, like a smaller shrine perhaps to Shalia out here in the open. It probably doesn't have her depiction, but maybe, you know, like kind of a nice little artwork piece with like a fountain and maybe some doves, you know, like some stone doves or whatever, like carved into the fountain.
Yeah, and I think also out here is a big kind of open air cage, and this is where Aylin's flock is. Yeah,
totally, absolutely. And that's why your sanctum is kind of outside, right? Because you have a flock of doves. Yeah, and I think that they're looking well. You have plenty of people who are good at tending to animals. None of them have died or anything. You probably see there are some hatchlings, and probably some of the older birds have passed, right? Because you've been gone for a month and a half or something like that.
Yeah. So I think she just kind of absentmindedly walks in that direction as Daniela is talking to her, and she just kind of, you know, checks in with all of her birds and whatnot.
Yeah, and Daniela begins to go into kind of the other side of things that we haven't heard yet, right? Like the religious things. I guess Daniela probably says that many priestesses have gone with the Force, leading towards Middenheim. And you probably noticed that kind of as well, walking through the halls. It's a little bit more scarce than it was before. And Daniela probably says, I wish to go with them, but in your absence, well, somebody has to be here, don't we?
Yes, Daniela, of course, but at this point I can put Lily in charge. You may go at any time.
Yeah, and she kind of like frowns and like shakes her head, and she says, well, if you say it is so, then perhaps I will travel north. One can certainly ride faster than the army that they took. I should be able to catch them within a week's time.
It seems they will need all the help they can get, especially one from such high rank as yourself.
She kind of chuckles and she's like, yes, I have rank. That is one thing that I am not used to.
I think Aylin just likes to rib her like that constantly because she's, you know, obviously in Altdorf, one of the highest ranking or the highest ranking paladin of Shalia in the whole area.
Basically, yeah.
And it makes her so uncomfortable, right? So
yeah, she is not comfortable being in charge of people. Yeah.
Yeah. Aylin likes to remind her of that frequently.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's probably not a lot, but there's probably a couple of paladins under her. Never are there a lot on hand, right? Because that's not a thing that people take too easily, because arguably it is harder to be a paladin of Shalia than any other deity in the world, right? Because, like, you have to know when is a good time to enact mercy and when is a bad time, right? Like, there has to be a very strict set of kind of rules there in place for them to actually pick up weapons and do what needs doing. So yeah, there's probably like 5 or 6 paladins total in all of Altdorf that exist, and all the rest of them have gone with the armies, and Daniela has stayed back in order to, you know, kind of hold down the fort. So she says to you, she's like, yes, and received many messages from the palace, advising us consistently. It was pleasant to be in the know, at least, well, from what they tell us, of course. But it seems that the Actually, I don't know the answer to this question because I don't think I've ever figured it out. But let's see, who is in charge of your brother guild? The Grand Theogonist, right? But I don't think I made a name for him at some point, right? No, I just said there was Theogonist Wayfarer, which was a while ago. But the Grand Theogonist, I don't think I ever gave a name. So, the Grand Theogonist, let's say he is... We'll call him Roderick. That seems like a good name. Grand Theogonist Roderick. Roderick the Third, probably. It's very Catholic. So Grand Theogonist Roderick is the head of the Church of Sigmar. Like, not the head of Altdorf, the head of the Church of Sigmar across the Empire. And in times like these, he would be one to kind of take control of the religious sects of the military, right? Because that obviously exists in this setting quite commonly. In fact, that's most of the military in certain times. Is like a bunch of, holy warriors and knights and justicars and all that other fun stuff. So, Grand Theogonist Roderick III, he, was that me? Okay, no. Grand Theogonist Roderick III, she says, the Grand Theogonist many times asked for your presence, and I can say that I was not pleased having to go in your stead. That is, these politics of religion are not something that are my strong suit. Megan?
Megan.
Alright,
Okay, Discord messed up. It's fine.
Alright.
Anyway, rocks fall, the entire city blows up in conflagration because nobody knew what the Grand Theogonist said.
Fire! Yep. Also, I've been meaning to ask you, could you check your Discord? Because I sent you a message.
Let me answer that question. No, it is distinctly different.
Okay.
The healing potions are a bit more pink. This is a bit more rose, kind of darker colored.
Okay.
Yeah. It is different. It appears different.
On a side note, guys, drinks are on me tonight for everyone. Forever.
It's good. It's good. It's good stuff.
Mm-hmm. Everyone gets a drink.
So. Well, Megan figures that out. Let's jump over to...
No, I think I'm back now.
Oh,
I think it's fine.
Hey, okay.
Okay, as long as you can hear me, then it's
Yes,
fine.
we can hear you. So, she said, she doesn't like going to the meetings with the Grand Theogonist in your stead.
Did you describe him? Because I missed it.
So the Grand Theogonist Roderick III, he's an older man, probably in his early 60s. He's basically the Pope, right? Like, that's the kind of mindset that we can get into when we're describing looking at him. His hair is probably turned all white. He exists in a lot of kind of, fanfare a lot. Being the head of the Church of Sigmar in the Empire is a big fucking deal. So yeah, he kind of exists as that kind of demagogue, right, of the religion. He himself, though, is probably a little bit more zealous than a lot of people would like. He loves his inquisitors. And the information that they get, and as we all know, as we've described many times, the Inquisitors are bad. Like, they're the ones who come and burn off all of your skin if you don't tell them the truth, at least according to them. He's very much of kind of that doctrine. Very cruel might be the word for it, but it's all kind of driven behind the righteous fire of Sigmar at his back. But he does respect other deities as well, but also respects them in the sense that Sigmar is the one true deity, and everybody else supports him, kind of deal.
Mm-hmm.
Did Discord mess up again for Megan?
No, I'm here.
Okay.
I'm listening.
Yeah, no, that's basically the Grand Theogonist.
Okay. Yeah, I would just probably say in response to Daniela saying, yes, he is a bit difficult to converse with. Yes, let's put it that way.
Yeah, and I think she shakes her head and says, "Shall you have mercy for anyone under his hammer?"
Aelin kind of gives her a tisk kind of face, but yeah.
Right, she eye roll hard.
Yeah.
But yeah, she describes to you how basically, you know, everybody got kind of scooped up as you do when you go to war. Everybody kind of got scooped up and taken off north, but that the Grand Theogonist is flying behind. And you find out too as well that the Grand Theogonist is coordinating with the Council, as they're calling it, right? Which is those 5 people that I mentioned before. Lord Tenderfoot, Lady Schwinn, Lord Gronberg, and Lady Tolsbeck, and then obviously Lord Cahill being kind of their figurehead. Lord Cahill is the Emperor's nephew, right? So, like, it makes sense that he would be in charge in this instance. So she relays all that information as kind of like the Grand Theogonist like sits on the council, like in quotations, sits on the council. But it's one of those things like he controls the religious arm of the Empire, which is basically both arms. So you have to kind of appease him, or he could very easily pull support away from you. Because religion is super important to these people.
No, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that at mention of the council, I think she would ask Daniela, has there been any specific word from any specific individuals in the council?
Do you give her knowing eyes, like she is supposed to know what you're talking about?
And she would know.
Okay,
yes.
that was my question. That was my question. She kind of like her eyebrow kind of raises a little bit, and she gives you the tisk tisk noise, and says, "Well, last I heard, everything was fine. Although they did, there was a request from the council, per se." And she kind of like, she's like looking down and like fidgeting with her hands, and then when she says per se, she like looks up at you, and then looks back down.
A request?
Yes, they wish that the High Priestess meet them with all post-haste should they arrive in Altdorf.
Ah, yes, I received that same request.
She kind of just like nods slowly.
Quickly changing the subject, Aelin goes, good, well, good. Have you heard any additional word about the Emperor's condition? Have they finally let some priests of Shalia in there, or are they being stubborn still?
She kind of like looks away a little bit, and she says, "Before I say anything, you must understand that relations between us and the palace may have deteriorated after an incident that occurred."
Aelin has serious face on.
Yeah. She says, "Well, Lily and I, we proffered to the Grand Theogonist that perhaps we should take a look in upon the Emperor, and after much convincing, it was obliged that we did, but what I can say that I saw was nothing like anything I have before. It seemed as though..." And she kind of like, she double checks to make sure nobody's in the courtyard. And she says, "Shall you have mercy, it seemed as though fear gripped the man's heart almost unto death."
Fear, you say? How did you know it was fear?
And she kind of like, she lowers her head and lowers her voice again, even to a more soft decibel. And she says, "It It's the eyes, sister. They were awake, but the body was not. It was as if when one has a nightmare they cannot awake from. And Lily did what she could, but something that she touched upon when using her magic, it caused the Emperor to... And she kind of again looks around, because this conversation that you're having right now, you guys could be put to death for talking about it, right? Yeah, just talking about the Emperor in any kind of bad light, you guys could literally just be burnt immediately. And she kind of looks around. She says, she struck something. She described it as a wall, but it caused the Emperor to have... She's fumbling, searching for a word, and she says, ill effects. He began convulsing violently, as if something were attacking him. The Grand Theogonus was none too pleased, and, well, needless to say, we have not been allowed to go back in.
Aylin's kind of sitting there thinking through all of the different scenarios that she has come into contact with before, and trying to see if it rings any bells with certain things that she may have come into contact with. Question mark.
Are you saying you would like to roll a medicine check?
Yes.
Okay. I will allow it.
I'm going to use inspiration.
That seems good. This seems like a good inspiration use.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
That was a good one.
I know exactly what this is.
Well, I wouldn't say exactly. You would have to examine him, right? And Daniela is not the greatest at describing things. So obviously raise the TN, but you scored a really high score. What you probably do know immediately about the situation is this is no natural disease, right? Just immediately from that description alone, this is not a natural thing that is occurring. And with that in mind, you jump to the more darker conclusions, right? Which involve poison or sabotage or, God forbid, dark magic, right? There are a lot of scenarios but with that description, you can know immediately that obviously it's not natural. But I think that you probably, and this is what the difference between 21 and 26 is for me, you pick up that it does not appear, if what Daniela says is true, it is not something that is killing the Emperor. It is something that is holding the Emperor. That's a very different distinction. Reasonably, if somebody were able to get close enough to cause the Emperor to be ill, they could just put a sword in his belly. Right?
Sure, there's easier ways.
Yeah, there's way easier ways to kill somebody, especially in this setting, right? He could be poisoned. He could be poisoned and dead before anybody was able to save him. This is something far deeper than that, right? He is purposely being kept alive for whatever reason. Right, and that would be the difference between the 21 and the 26 there.
Yeah.
It does not appear to be an assassination attempt or something.
Yeah, and I think with that specific revelation, I think Aylin would kind of halt this conversation from here on out because of how dangerous the implications may be.
Right.
So I think she would just turn to Daniela and say, well, it seems I must speak with Lily immediately, though. Thank you for sharing this. I know this goes without saying, but it's best that you tell no one of this.
Yeah, and I think she looks at you and she says, on Shalia's honor, Lily and I swore a pact that we would only speak of it with you.
As is best. And then I think she kind of sits staring off into space at her birds for a little bit, and then if at some point she could go find Lily, who actually performed said procedure, procedure air quotes,
quote unquote, to
get a better detail. But
cool, yeah. So I think that while you were doing that, we'll move on. And I don't think there's anybody I specifically missed, so that means it's probably time. Oh well, Kree, real quickly.
Yeah,
Kree. So jump forward again over to the embassy. And Abigail takes you into this into kind of this like conference room area where there's like a long table, and she pours you some wine, and clearly for herself she has some like tea or a glass of something. And she kind of like takes down like some parchments and kind of uses like paperweights and spreads them out, and says, yes, and you can tell she's kind of nervous because you are an intimidating fellow. And she says, I've been instructed that there are some perhaps first contact terms we need to draft up. I've been told that you are a diplomat from the lizard folk. Pray tell, what is the sect of lizard folk that you represent? Or clan, I'm sorry, I don't know your terms very well.
In your terms, it would be those who worship the sun god.
She kind of like nods.
The great and mighty.
Yeah, she kind of like nods and says, oh, I see, a religious thing. That is applicable, yes. And you see her, she begins, like, she pulls out a quill and, like, dips it in some ink and begins, like, scribing, like, sun god. And she's like, and does the sun god have a name? Specifically, or is he just known as the sun god?
In our terms, he has a name. He goes by... Oh, God, what is it? He goes by the name of Chotek.
Yeah. And yeah, you can see it kind of dawns on her, and she's like, yes, Chotek, I've read some very brief things on that particular deity. I believe you call your deities the Old Ones. Is that true?
Yes, it is.
Yes, very well, very well. And she writes it down and scribbles, and she says, and for the record, what should we call you? I was introduced to you as Kree, but do you have a title, Kree? Would you prefer ambassador? That is what we humans and halflings and dwarves use.
I think that will do just fine.
She kind of nods, smiling. She says, yes, very well. Ambassador Kree, and then she like pauses, like for a surname.
Ambassador Kree. Just leave it at that. There is no surname.
Understandable. Do all of your people go by simply their given names?
We do not, but my original clan that I was representing has diminished.
I am sorry for your loss. I wish ill will upon the enemies that caused this, and I hope that your clan or sect will prosper in the future.
Many thanks. Surprisingly considerate.
Yeah, I mean, she is, right? Like, this is her job, right?
She's
like,
a diplomat.
She gets paid to be considerate to people to their faces. Yeah, and I think that the conversation kind of leans into, what are your people's goals? She's basically trying to learn about what you are trying to do, like what your purpose is, so that she can facilitate that to what like the purpose of Null or Kislev is, right? Like, how can we help? How can you help me help you help me, kind of thing. So what do you say to her when let's say she poses the question like, what is the goal of this sect of Chotek? What do you wish to accomplish with your diplomatic ties to Kislev?
Well, the terms are quite simple. Recently, as I just described, my former clan has diminished, or deceased, if you will. However, this new clan that's rising, they are foreign. They're worshippers of Zunki, the Lord of Water.